Welcome to the Up&Under podcast or webcast or whatever you want to call it, because this is video nowadays and only sound bits are not over, but it's going for a transformation. Today we're going to talk about the Lions versus Springboks, the Master Gatland versus Jack Ninamber, helped by unnamed Waterboy or Waterman, whatever whatever you want to call it. And we'll talk tonight about the teams that were picked for the first test, some of the issues in both teams, and the qualities that they're going to show. With me today is Jeff from Loosehead, which is a brilliant page that you can cut on Twitter and in the Patreon. He makes analysis from teams. He did a very well done one about Paulo Garbisi. He's a big fan of Garbisi, I think. Vitor Ramalho is also a Garbisi fan, like a crazy one. And with me also is Ryan from Rock and Roll. Last time we had Stefan also from the Rock and Roll, and Vitor Ramalho from Portal do Reiby. So we're going to talk about the Lions. Jeff, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going directly because you talked when Owen Farrell played as a fly half some weeks ago for the Lions. You liked his exhibition without the ball because he was a commander and chief of the team. He could direct guidelines and put the team going forward without risking too much. It's a bit, we're going to see Lions a bit different tomorrow with Dan Bigger as 10, or I think it's going to be the same approach?
No, I think it's going to be pretty much the same. I think regardless of who was 10, let's say if Russell was fit, if it was Bigger, if it was Farrell, we'd still see the same direction being shown by the out half. I enjoyed Farrell's game, but it was reminiscent of Bigger's one straight away afterwards. They even had a similar kind of setup for a try. Farrell had a bit less time than Bigger to do what he did, but they both feigned to step, throw an offload and set it up. But I think regardless of who would be playing tomorrow, they'd still be looking to play the same attacking style. They'd still be looking to play the same kind of width that we will see tomorrow. I think that it's a team that's been picked in order to attack rather than to defend and to hold on to a lead. It's a team that I think will continue to play for the 80 minutes. And the only, I suppose, pressure I think that comes from the Lions side is that I think that the team selected, given the bench, let's say, so the 16 to 23, I think that it's going to put an awful lot of pressure on the bench to ensure, or it's going to put an awful lot of pressure on the starting team to ensure that they're ahead at half time or leading before the bench comes on. Because if you look at, let's say, the bench coming on, a lot of them play the same kind of game. Like I imagine that, I spoke about it earlier in an article, like Sutherland and Owens, I think they've been picked for their set piece, whereas Sinclair, he plays a nice linking game with the backs and he stands at first receiver a lot for Bristol and for England. Tyg Byrne, he's a footballer. Watson is a footballer, a great carrier. But if you look at, let's say, Murray and Farrell coming in, they look to play quite an aerial game, quite a dictated kicking game. And if you look at Williams then in the 23 spot, instead of, let's say, the likes of Josh Adams, who'd be more of running rugby threat, more threat kind of with ball in hand, I think you'll see a continual, let's say, last 20 minutes, I think we'll see an awful lot of kicking, especially if the Lions are ahead. And we'll see, let's say, Liam Williams, if he comes on for the likes of Watson, Brandon Merva, or even Hogg. I don't see him coming on for Hogg, being honest, but like if we do see him coming on, he's quite good in the air too. So no, I think regardless of who we see at 10 tomorrow, well, I know it's going to be Bigger, but like I thought we would see Bigger anyway at 10. I thought we might see Farrell at 12 and continue that 10-12 access that Gatland favoured so heavily in 2017. But no, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Bigger goes. And probably one of Bigger's biggest strengths, Harry, that was a bit of a tongue twister. One of Bigger's biggest strengths is that he's quite good playing an aerial game himself. He'll put up and unders and he'll chase them and he'll look to get them himself and gather too. So that's just another string to his bow that perhaps that Farrell doesn't have. They can both play expansive games, but I think perhaps that chase, that up and under, that kick chase game that Bigger has too, that's a big strength to his bow too.
So that's a very good point. The high ball. You think the Boks will put pressure on Bigger from the start with a high ball and test his safety? And how can he recycle the ball quickly?
Well, I imagine the Lions will probably be defending with a 13-2 tomorrow, and that's probably going to have bigger backfield along with Hogg. The Springboks will 100% have a kicking game tomorrow. It's one of their biggest strengths, and Pollard is excellent with it. And along with their kick chase, I mean, you have Colby, Mapimpi, Willie LaRue. Like, these are all fantastic footballers, but they're also very, very good in the air. And people talk about Colby saying, "Oh, he's quite short and he's not great in the air," but Colby will make a fool of you any chance he gets. But 100% the Springboks kicking game will be a big weapon in their arsenal tomorrow. And funnily enough, I spoke about this earlier as well in an article, like the Lions also have a decision to make, bigger especially. Like, is he going to kick long, risk hitting space and giving the ball to, let's say, a Colby or a LaRue or a de Klerk if he's back on that 13-2 that a lot of teams are implementing at the moment? Or does he kind of, give 10 meters, kick 10 meters shorter, make sure he hits touch, but then engage them in the line-out? So it's going to be, like, there's battles all over the place tomorrow, regardless of if it's a kick chase, regardless if it's a line-out, set piece, maul, scrum, like everywhere is going to be a battle tomorrow. I for one, I'm all for it. Like, I can't wait for it.
Okay, last question for you, and then I go for Ryan because he's a Welsh fan, and bigger 10, they must be happy, but no Faletau, which was a big surprise. If Finn Russell was available for selection because he's still with the injury, you think it will come down to Finn, or you think Gatland will always go for bigger, Farrell, and then Russell?
No, I don't think so. I don't think, that game that Russell played, now I forget the opposition, apologies, but he played at 10, and I believe that Farrell played at 12 outside him, and I thought he was excellent. He had a great game. I can't remember the opposition now, so apologies, but I felt he was excellent. He had a great game. He controlled it a lot better than I thought he would, and kudos to him. Like, I was wrong. In terms of Faletau, I don't know about Ryan, but I was kind of expecting Jack Coden to be named, and that's not out of bias or anything like that. I just feel that he's been excellent on tour so far. He plays a nice wide carrying game for Ireland, for Leinster, and for the Lions so far too. So, like, a lot of the time, people look at meters made and they get that stat muddled because, let's say, Jack Conan might have a lot more meters than, let's say CJ Stander back when he was playing with Ireland. People just say, well, like, look at the carries and the meters made and look at that ratio, but you have to look at where Conan makes his carries. He plays a nice wide game. It suits the Lions. He's been in form. Faletau is an excellent player, don't get me wrong, and he's a lot of credit in the bank as well with Gatland, but just Conan's performing. And if you look at that Lions 1 to 23, probably you could say the only one who's been performing probably the best and has been kept out is probably Josh Adams. You could argue Jamie George as well, but, like, I mean, leaving Josh Adams out, like, it's a huge call, but, like, he probably would have taken he would probably would have taken the place of Duhan van der Merwe. And if you look at the stats, like, Duhan van der Merwe has the most contact or the most meters made. He's beaten the most defenders. He's the most meters made post contact too. So, like, yeah, Josh Adams has the tries, and I'm not knocking that at all. But, like, Duhan van der Merwe has the work rate and attack and everything like that. I think probably the biggest thing for Duhan van der Merwe to worry about is Quagga Smith coming across. I think that's why he's in that number 8 role, just to fill that extra flanker on the pitch. But no, I think Russell. Sorry to get back to your question. I've kind of gone a roundabout way. I think Russell had every chance of starting the test, especially the way he was playing. All three were in contention, but I think Bigger just nipped it because. And another reason because of it, I think, is if you look at Henshaw and Daly at 12 and 13, they're both very, very good kick chasers, and their kick chasing game is excellent on top of their distribution and on top of their creation. So, there's a couple of reasons there that I think that Bigger got that 10 slot overall. But no, I mean, if Russell was continuing in the same vein of form he was in before, kind of tweaking that Achilles, I think he would have had an excellent chance too.
Yeah, very good. Ryan, did you like the argumentation for Conan be an number 8? It's enough for you, or you think Faletau should be on the team?
No, I think on form it was always going to be Conan. Looking at the games that they've played, he deserves it. He's played well. Obviously, the stats back him up as well. He did well in the Six Nations for Ireland as also. The only thing that, and I mentioned this on our pod recording the other day, that I thought may have played in Faletau's favour is when Gatland picked the squad, there was a big emphasis on people that have had credit in the bank. So the likes of Itoje, who hadn't necessarily played well, the likes of Farrell, probably someone like Jamie George as well. that because they'd done it for him on previous tours, that was enough for them to obviously get picked and go on tour. And I thought that might have been the same with Toby, because when it comes, I forget who it was. It may have even been one of the South African back rowers a couple of years ago. I saw an interview where he said one of the biggest things for him on a team sheet when they play against Wales is Faletau playing. If he is, they know they're in for a game. If he's not, then they think that they can sort of ease off a little bit, I suppose, because it's not going to be as strong. So that was a surprise for me. But going purely on form, you can't knock it. The one that I may have swapped out was I personally thought Hamish Watson has been better than Kerry during the games. I thought he may have started at 7, but obviously with the game plan they're potentially looking at doing and having Hamish and Byrne off the bench, then that makes sense. But that's, I think, of the actual whole 23. It has a good balance there, but I think similar to what the point that Jeff was just making, it's a case of like their forward packs are there to be very defensive, be strong in defence, because they know what's going to come from South Africa. Where we've got a back line that if they get the ball, we could potentially cause trouble. But then you look at the bench and it's flipped over. We've got forwards that are good in the loose, handling, quick. And then the backs are more of defensive backs. So it's strange in the way of it doesn't necessarily point out exactly how Gatland's game plan is going to be, because it conflicts a little bit with it's not just all pace off the bench or it's not all defensive off the bench. It's mixed and match. So it'll be interesting to see that tomorrow. But like Jeff said, I'm excited for it. I'm like a kid at Christmas when it comes to the Lions. So tomorrow morning I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. It's going to be a great one, I think.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting game tomorrow, because a lot of people sent their pre-match analysis and what will happen. It's going to be a different game. I think 1 month before this beginning of the series, official beginning, most were thinking if the Springboks were going to go for the 2019 type of game. I think they're going to present something different. I don't know if Jeff and Ryan agree with me. And the Lions with Gatland is going to be completely different from what you saw in 2017, because it's completely different teams. He needs to throw something quicker. I don't know if you agree, Jeff, with this, but the Springboks are going to start with a quicker game, and in the second half they're going to put a punch on it, mostly on the scrum, because I think in the last 20 minutes, if they have a very good scrum, they can break the Lions, or at least win some penalties to put the ball on the line, not maul, and then try to play quickly in Colby. Do you agree with this?
It's funny you mentioned the scrum, because I think that the starting front row for South Africa and the front row on the bench for South Africa are they're two very, very good units. I think that the one on the bench is probably the stronger one. And Kitshoff, Marks, they've been known to finish off games. But I think that the likes of Furlong, I think the line starting front row, I should say.
Wyn Jones.
Wyn Jones, Luke Cowan-Dickie and Furlong. I think that I just drew a blank there. I think that they're going to attack the Springbok scrum straight from the off, in order to make sure that Kitshoff, Marks and Malherd are getting onto the pitch sooner rather than later, because if those three guys are coming onto the pitch after 50 minutes fresh, you're going to have a situation similar kind of to the World Cup, or similar to actually to 2009, when Vickery went off and Adam Jones got injured. You're going to be in a situation where you're facing pretty much a fresh front row unit. And like the World Cup final in 2019, you've already said it. No scrum, no win. You eke out scrum penalties, and they're cheap yards, they're cheap points to be getting, and you keep that scoreboard ticking over. Like, that's one of the hardest things to ever beat in rugby, is the scoreboard ticking over. You're 3, 6, 9, 12, and some, the odd score will come when you have Mapimpi and Colby and and Dale Ende, guys like this, like in the back line. Like, these scores will come eventually, but like at the same time, when you see the scoreboard ticking over as a result of a dominant scrum, that gives a huge boost, and it's a huge weapon to have anywhere within 50 meters of the opposition's post. So I actually do think that Cowan-Dickie, that Furlong, and that Wyn Jones will attack that scrum like early doors as soon as they can. And look, and like, this it's kind of wasted breath. Like, of course, they're going to attack the scrum early doors. Like, I mean, every front row unit does, but I think that there's that little bit of pressure to make sure that the sub front rows are coming on that bit sooner in order to make sure that they're tiring out and not having such a huge influence at the end of the game.
So it's a well done perspective because it's different. So, in your opinion, Erasmus and Ian Aber are waiting for the team to take the punch, and so Marks and Kichov and Malabar can come in the last 20 minutes. But if things go wrong, you think they're coming to the field earlier?
Well, I mean, if you look at the selection of the Lions props, I mean, Mako Vunipola is an excellent prop. He's a really, really good scrummaging prop, but he's given away a couple of penalties already on this tour. Now, rightly or wrongly, that's up to the perception of the ref and perception of the videos and everything like that. Like, there was a wonderful discussion there the last day. I think EK Analysis put it up, and it was it just showed the side angle of the scrum. Mako went down, but was it the tight head's fault? So, I mean, you're looking at videos like that now. We have tons and tons of replays, and like even that video, we watched. I must have watched it 10 times before offering my point on it. But refs at the time and ARs at the time, they don't have that luxury. They're seeing it in real time. They're watching offside lines. They're watching second rows. They're watching nines putting in the ball. Well, they're not watching the nines putting in the ball, but they're watching a lot of things. And they don't have that luxury of us. So if Mako Vunipola was selected at loose head or even sub loose head coming into that test, he's coming in with a perception tagged on him already, or a preconception, I should say, from the referee. He'd say, well, he's given away a couple of penalties already on this tour. He's probably the substandard scrummager, even though that may not be true. And I'm not saying the ref wouldn't do due diligence here or anything like that, but preconceptions in a game like that, they do carry weight. So, and I'm also not taking anything away from Sutherland or anything like that, or Wyn Jones who start. And I'm just saying that, when you look at the line selection as well, you're looking to get the upper hand in the scrum, be it mentally or physically. And I think that, getting a shove on early in the scrum and keeping that shove on, presenting that really, really good picture to the ref that's saying, like, look, he's scrummaging illegally, or we clearly have the upper hand, or our hips are square, whereas his are popping out, whatever it may be, whatever little image that you think that you can present to the ref, they're going to be looking to get at straight away. And, for me, the scrum is, well, it's always a big deal, and it's always a big battle, but especially against South Africa, they love set piece. Like South African forwards just really love set piece because they thrive on it, and you're going to love it if you do thrive on it. So it's important just to attack that early and to get into that headspace as best as you can at that level.
Ryan, we talked about the scrum, but the lineup is going to be completely the same. It's going to be a war. Gatland opted for 4 jumpers, so it shows he wants different options to confuse the box and to give another type of game plan. What do you think? Do you like the Lions mole against the Springboks? Did you find their defense against the mole against the box was good? What's your opinion?
It was decent, but I think it was better when Adam Beard was there, and he's not in the 23, so that could be an issue at the weekend. But no, I think when you look at the squad and you look at the first 23s that Gats picked for the game against Japan and then the first game on tour, he picked Byrne at 6 in Edinburgh, and he picked Courtney Laws at 6 in the first game in South Africa. So you knew straight away he was going to play with an additional second row. However, the rest of the back row worked. I think the extra bodies there obviously are going to definitely help. South Africa themselves, you look at the likes of like Khaleesi can jump. Peter Steph-Toy is massive as well, so he's good in the line out. And then you've got the bench as well, the bomb squad as it like to be called. They'll come on and obviously do the same afterwards. So I think it just needed to be as many people as possible that would give options to the Lions, so it's not easily going to be picked. And I also think that there's a point made recently that I read that in the games that the Lions have played so far, although it's been a little bit frustrating when they've gone like tap pen, especially that game against the A's, I think they're doing it to not give away the stuff that they want to work on in the tests, or that like a move that they got planned or whatever. They don't want to waste things in the warm-up games that they think they're going to be working for them against South Africa. So whether that's when it comes to getting the ball off the line, or whether that's all going to be off the top as much as possible, so they're not in a mauling game, and then to get the runners running. I don't know, but I think the more options you have when it comes to set piece, the better. So I think the fact that there's 4 there, not necessarily carry. I think maybe if Tipperick had been fit and he could have been the starting 7, then you've got 5 options. But yeah, it's just going to be fascinating to see on Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fascinating because the best trial run they had, it was against the South Africa A, but Gatland didn't show anything. So when they had penalties, they didn't go to the scrum or the line.
Yeah, tap, doesn't
it? Why do you think it was?
Well, I just think it's because he doesn't want to show the patterns of play that they're going to work, that they've been working on in training, that will hopefully surprise South Africa at the weekend. Mm-hmm. So I think if Gatland was going to be typical Gatland, the backline at the weekend would have included both Henshaw and Harris in the centre. He would have focused more on defence and not to lose the game than going out to win the game. Like the point you touched on earlier with Dan Biggar, he's probably the best 10 in the world under the high ball, especially his kick and chase is phenomenal. But it would be interesting to have seen if Finn had been fit, because Dan Biggar in the 2019 Grand Slam for Wales was the fly-off on the bench who came on after 60 minutes after watching the game, was then pinning corners and trying to make us win the game. It was Anscombe that was starting. So it would have been interesting to have seen had that something similar happened with Finn if he'd been fit. The Gatland had gone, right, go and play your game, and then hopefully we're in a position where we can bring Dan on, or if it was Owen Farrell or whoever, to then see the game out. So yeah, that would have been something that potentially would have been nice to have seen. But who knows? Second test, Marcus Smith at 10.
Jeff, Ryan answered very well about this. But do you think there's going to be something so special from the Lions? They had to hid from Erasmus and Nina Aber when they played with the South Africa A team.
Oh yeah, you can't show your hand straight away, and even the way that South Africa wanted to get that second South Africa A game instead of the Stormers, and Razzie wanted it, but there's no, if I'm Gatland, flat out, I'm the exact same. No way, not playing that twice, because you want to take mistakes that happened in that game and then fix it against an opposition you won't be facing again. So there's also the fact that if you played South Africa A second time and you were forced not to show your hand the second time, you're also, limiting yourself, and you're not being able to play an expansive game that you probably want to play. So yeah, I think they probably played, I don't want to say a different game, I want to say kind of a limited game. They just played a different style, I suppose. Because, people were talking about, it was, Ryan, you'll probably remember this now as well. They were against 13 on the stroke of half time, penalty 5 meters out, and the tap and went, and people were shouting, scrum. And I get where they're coming from. I absolutely do. But these are professional guys who are top of the game. There's no way that the idea of going for a scrum didn't cross their mind, if that makes sense. So, they clearly limited their game, and they clearly, limited what they wanted to do against South Africa A. So, no, I fully agree. And that's probably why when that opportunity to play South Africa A came about again the following week or whatever it was, that they just negated it straight away, because why would you want to do that to yourself twice?
About the Springboks, people were talking about Duhan van der Merwe being on the wing against Cheslin Colby. Brian O'Driscoll, I think, was a bit nervous because van der Merwe defensive capability is not so good as Josh Adams or Zammit is debatable, but against Liam Williams, who is on the bench. Why do you think Gatland opted for van der Merwe? It was all about the numbers as an attacker, as an attacking player, or is it like a trap? So the Springboks will think it's easier to go to that side and try to get a jump on him.
I think it's all about the numbers as an attacking player. Van der Merwe, he's man of the matches on this tour. He's been attacking so well, ball in hand. He's sparked an awful lot. And in terms of that narrative of his defensive capabilities, you show me anybody in the world who's able to defend against Cheslin Colby, and they'll walk onto that line store. No one can defend against Cheslin Colby. He's a comic book. He's a comic book character on fast forward. So he can dodge a rain. If you can show me anyone who can defend him, that's fine. But what gets me is if Cheslin Colby runs at Van der Merwe, or if Van der Merwe, misses a tackle on him, or if he gets stepped, whatever it may be, that narrative's already there now to say, well, I said he's a poor defender. I mean, to me, it does not matter who's against Cheslin Colby. Before the game, you can come out and say, well, X is not a great defender. X will miss a tackle on Colby. Like, it's flat out going to happen. It's like trying to defend Lomu back in the day. So straight away after the game, you can say, well, I told you so. But I think, and that's not to say that people are doing that or anything like that, but I do think that this narrative could be applied across the board to anybody who's lining out against Colby. I think that Van der Merwe is in the team because of what he brings, because of his carrying, because of just like what can be sparked off him. I think Adams is very unlucky not to get a nod at the same time. It must have been a very, very difficult conversation to have. And like, how do you tell a guy who's top try scorer so far in the test or in the tour that you're not starting, or you're not even involved in the 23? It's a conversation that it's a genuine conversation. I'd say Josh Adams just heard the words "you're not involved" and didn't hear anything else. Like, I can't imagine it, but no, like I like Duhan van der Merwe from the first couple of games. I've been saying he's been excellent. I think he will be very, very good tomorrow. How he goes, we'll see, I suppose, but I have full faith in him as an attacker.
Talking about another play that everybody was surprised was Elliot Daly starting as a 13 because there were options. Ryan, do you reckon Elliot Daly is going to do a very good game, or it's going to be a lost bet by Mr. Gatler?
No, I think it's an ingenious plan. As someone who's Welsh and quite vocally on my podcasts, ridicules the England backline at times during the last Six Nations. It's been crying out for somebody like Elliot Daly to be 13 in that England backline, and I think, although personally going into the tour I thought first choice would have been Hinshaw and Harris, I think the way that Daly's played and the options he gives in the sense of he can cover 15 if needs be, his goal kicking is phenomenal, and obviously when you're in South Africa, the ball goes further as well, so that'll be an additional assistance. Although biggest boots class, obviously anything just inside our own half tomorrow, there's an option of going for the goal as well, which we haven't necessarily done on tour, because every penalty so far that's been in and around the halfway, they've gone corners, which I understand obviously to get tries and get confidence and stuff and round patterns of play, but that option is there. And I think having Bigger and Henshaw with a football in 13 that Daly is, I think will give the Lions a different dynamic to the attack tomorrow that I suppose the Springboks probably weren't expecting beforehand. Going back onto the point as well about Duhan, I think the question is, how's Colby going to defend against Duhan? Because he's a big man, isn't he? Like, if he gets the ball running at Colby, how's Colby going to defend him? So that's the question for tomorrow.
Just on that Elliot Daly point too, I think that he is it was no surprise for me to see him included at 13. The surprise would be if he wasn't included. I think that the style that the Lions want to play is pretty much personified through his selection at 13. And people leading into the test series or leading up to selections, the people were saying, "Oh, Robbie Henshaw nailed on 13." Like, Robbie Henshaw's played 12 a number of times, and his distribution is also phenomenal. It's probably one of the most understated side of his games, and like, he plays 12 loads for Ireland inside ring rows. So I wasn't surprised at all to see Daly included at 13. He's averaging a try, I think it's every 9 passes or something. He's a playmaker. He gets lots and lots of touches on the ball. If you took out 9 and 10, I'd wager that Daly probably gets the most touches on that in that team. So the fact that he's included, I don't think it's a leap of faith. I don't think it's a hit and hope. I think it's a very well calculated plan by Gatland to have a creative 13 in there.
Yeah, a creative 13 that can kick, that can command the team, that can execute a good combo. Not also with the 10, but with Hogg, which I think is going to be important for tomorrow. It's like the combo between 10 and 13 and 10, 13 and 15. So maybe why we didn't see against South Africa was that combo starting of these 3 players that can I'm not going to say break the Springboks, but send a message to them. About the Springboks, you think Alwyn Jones came back, so Eben Etzebeth will not be that the only king on the lineout, but what pack you think has the high up at this point?
Is that for me or Ryan?
Jeff, no, you can.
What pack has the upper hand? Is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a funny one. If you look at the numbers alone, I mean, the Lions front row, the Lions second row, and the Lions back row are all heavier than their opposite units. If you look at height, a lot of the Lions are bigger as well than the South Africans. But like, it's funny when it comes to Springboks, size and weight doesn't really seem to matter.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about their physicality and their precision at the breakdown and everything like that. And Bernard Jackman put up a fantastic video there, I think it was yesterday maybe, of the Springboks at breakdown time, and it's phenomenal how low they managed to get but still stay on their feet and clear it out. In terms of Alwyn Jones coming back, I think a big role he's going to have is to help marshal Etzebeth and also Mostert. I think Mostert was unbelievable in that South Africa A game. I think he was probably my player of the game, being honest with you. And I think Alwyn Jones is going to take an awful lot, and maybe Ryan, you might be able to expand more on this, but I think that part of his role is going to be marshalling those two boys an awful lot in order to free up Itoje to play the game Itoje can't play. In his carrying, in defence particularly, Itoje manages always to read that the first receiver isn't always going to be the carrier, the threat, and that pass is going to be tipped on or tipped back or whatever it may be, and that's a huge string to Itoje's bow. And I think that Jones is going to allow Itoje to concentrate in his own game. I think, between the two of them, they'll run the line out real well too, but there's a lot of focus on Etzebeth, I think, in the Springbok team, and rightly so. He's a man monster, he's unbelievable, but like Mostert and De Jager's on the bench too, and so is Elstad. Like, he is phenomenal. Sorry, I think I'm after losing you there. And like, he is phenomenal too. He's a he's a top 14 Champions Cup champion too, and he's coming into this team where he's used to playing a high tempo, kind of frantic, physical game too. So in terms of who has the upper hand, it's difficult to call.
50-50?
I mean, I'm going to go 50-50 and just sit in the fence with it, but maybe Ryan would be happy to give a less politician's answer on it, I suppose.
It's a good answer, but Ryan, 50-50, or you're going to give 70-30 for Gatland?
No, I'm going to go probably 55-45. And okay. I think the call for that in favour of the Lions, because I think the call for that is, although he's a fantastic player himself, if Smith wasn't playing at 8 and Vermeulen was there, that pack, I don't think Lions would get anywhere near. But I wouldn't say he's the weakling because he's phenomenal, but I think it's a similar question to the Falatau not being on the team sheet. I think it's a case of the Lions will look at it and going, we can get at them. Like, that back row of Khaleesi, Peter Steph-Toy and Smith is not as good without Vermeulen, but it's the same. You look at the Lions back line, it's not as the back row, sorry, it's not as good without the likes of Tipperick, Falatau, etc. in there. Maybe even someone like Billy Vanapola, like for size, because it's on paper. If you looked at it before the tour, I think the back row that's been picked potentially wouldn't have been picked 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago. If you'd asked everybody, it would have been the likes of maybe a Carey, Watson, Falatau, or something like that, or Tipperick, etc. in there. But that's not being negative towards the back row that is picked, because that back row is phenomenal. And I think Alan Wynn's key to how they're going to play tomorrow. He, like you said, he has to negate the two. And it's not going to be easy negating those two, Mostert and Etzebeth, because obviously you probably need about 4 or 5 guys to look after them too. However, it is Alan Wynne, aka God, aka Lazarus. So who knows? Like he could score 4 tries himself tomorrow, and the Lions win by 40 points. But we'll see what happens.
Well, it's going to be interesting because when Alwyn Jones got the injury, I think people thought the Springboks had all the advantage for the test match. But are the Boks, they are the world champions, and with Erasmus behind the team, it's always a jack in the box. It can be a surprise and nobody expecting. But I think Warren Gatland for this time is going, guns blazing, and it's going to be all and out attack. Sorry, it's not going to be defense.
No.
But there are some points here. If it was up to you, Jeff, what player would you change on the starting lineup on the 23?
For the Lions,
and for the Boks, you can give
and for the Boks. Okay. Well, the Springboks one is pretty easy. I'd probably like to see.
Sorry, one thing: injury players don't count.
Okay. For the Springboks, it's probably pretty easy. I'd like to see probably Francois Steyn or Mornay Steyn in there, just because they played 12 years ago, and maybe it's the romantic in me, or I don't know, the nostalgic fool. I don't know, but I'd love to see them involved, just because, full circle and all that jazz. And also just probably having the chance to play against the Lions twice and on 2 separate tours. I mean, how rare is that? So I suppose the romantic in me would like to see probably either one of them, probably Francois Steyn, just because I love the boot as well. But for the Lions, that's probably a more difficult one. I'd probably like to have seen Jamie George in there, and I don't know at the expense of who, but I just felt that Jamie George was very, very good in the games he was involved in. There's probably someone I'm forgetting that people are screaming at the laptop screens now or their phones now that I've forgotten, but Jamie George springs to mind. I don't know why, but like the Josh Adams omission, as big as it was, doesn't bother me as much as the George one. Maybe it's the forward in me. I'm not too sure, but no. I'll go with Jamie George maybe. I think it's a very well balanced team from the Lions. It's kind of hard to pick for the Lions, to be honest with you, because I actually really do like the team. I think it's very, very good 23, but yeah, we'll go with Jamie George. And I'm not saying for Cowan Dickey or for Owens, because I don't want to insult anyone, but I'd like to have seen him in there somewhere. And we'll say Francois Steyn then for South Africa.
Okay, Francois Steyn. Don't you have nightmares from more than 13 years ago, more than Steyn in the Francois Steyn?
I don't know. You could look back at those games and say like that. Geez, I wouldn't pick them because of that. But all they're doing is doing their job, and they did it incredibly well. Like in that second test for Mornay Steyn, what was that? His first or second cap for South Africa to come on and to do that. Like so. And then Francois Steyn winning a World Cup 2007, what was he, like 19 or something like that? So I genuinely, I have nothing but admiration for those boys to be able to go out and just do that on the biggest stage, So I'd be happy to see them involved, to be honest.
Ryan, do you have nightmares with that Mornay Steyn kick in the second test match?
No, because it's all Roger's fault.
Oh well, we'll reel that in there.
No, obviously there's going to be nightmares there. That scenario, you think ideally that doesn't happen, but unfortunately it does. Mornay Steyn did his, like Jeff said, he's done his job. He's there to kick goals, and he kicked the goal. It won him the tour, won him the series, and that's all that matters. Then
it's time to you to pick
for my two.
Yeah.
So Adam Beard in the last 4 weeks has been phenomenal.
That's a good shout.
Yeah.
In that 23, like the big shock for me that he wasn't in the 23. He may not have started. It was interesting, and we mentioned this in our pod last night. It's interesting that Gats said I think Wednesday, that when they made the decision that Ali Price was going to start at 9, they knew Alan Wynne had to start because they needed the experience on the pitch. Mm-hmm. So I wonder whether it was a case of Alan Wynne or Adam Beard, in that whether it's starting or was that as that 23rd player, because I think they made the right choice with starting Ali Price. But if that's at the expense of Adam being not being in the 23, I think that's a bit odd for a scrum half to take the place of a second row. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I think he was.
Yeah, Henderson's been classed as well. Yeah. So I think for me, I'd want Adam Beard in the 23.
Mm-hmm.
I would, for other reasons, I'd want Owen Farrell not in there because that means I've lost a bet because I made a bet before the tour was started, and once the squad after the squad was announced, before the tour started, I made a bet that Farrell wouldn't make the first Test 23.
That's a big bet.
Yeah, because I'm not convinced by him. He was not great in the Six Nations. I think he's the issue at 12 for England in that back line. And I think Eddie's made that issue himself because he's made him captain. But there's a whole nother pod and story on that, so I'll digress. But yeah, Owen Farrell in the 23 has lost me a fiver, but it's only a fiver, so there goes. South Africa, I want to say Faf because he's just phenomenal. But I think you got to pick Colby. Wish Colby was not in that team. But a South African player that I wish was there.
You have to pick. Come on.
I'd probably say if you're going into a tour like that, you want to be playing against the best players. So I wish Dwayne Vermaelen was there because you want to be going into a tournament going, we've beaten the best, and then no excuses.
You can't.
No, oh yeah, he's injured, isn't he?
No pressure there, Ryan.
You have the Dupree's boys. Huh?
Oh. No, I'll just go with wish that Faf or Cheslin wasn't there. Then we'll go with that instead.
Well, it's going to be interesting. In all the players that are picked for the 23, for you, Jeff, who think that in Portuguese you have word who got the vindication here? It was Ali Price for you, Todd Byrne, Jack Conan, because I remember when Jack Conan was picked for the Lions, a lot of my friends here in Portugal and outside said, Jack Conan, why? He doesn't even start for Ireland, and Jack Conan is pure class. I think people don't know him too well because they don't see the Leinster games, but Jack Conan is pretty amazing. Do you think it was Jack Conan or Ali Price or another player?
Who's justified in their selection? I think you could talk all 15, to be honest, or 23 if you're going that far. I think it's great. It is great to see Ali Price in there. I really like Conor Murray, but Ali Price has been very, very good at running games. He's picking his passes really well. His distribution's been excellent. I said, really happy Elliot Daly's in there too. I just think he's creatively brilliant. Probably one from me in the 23 that I am actually really, really I don't want to say chuffed to see in there, but just really pleased for him is probably Kyle Sinclair. And I know he's on the bench, but to go from not even selected on the tour to be on the bench for that first test, I think is be it through somebody else's injury or what, it doesn't really matter to me. He still got there. And I think he's a fantastic player. I love the way he plays. He scrummages real well around the pitch. He does real well. He's a great link player, throws great passes too. His distribution's really, really good. So I suppose from a Lions perspective, to see him go from not being selected to included in that 23, it's just fair play to him. Well done. Just kept going, and I'm pretty sure he got man of the match for Bristol the weekend after he was omitted. So he didn't let it get to him. He just kept playing his own game, and look where he is now. So I think I'm delighted for him. From a Springboks perspective, I think Quagga Smith for me. The back line pretty much picks itself. If Nkosi is fit, maybe Mapimpi probably misses out, but or maybe Colby, whichever. But I think from a South Africa perspective, I'm delighted for Quagga Smith. He's a lot smaller than the traditional number 8. You look at Dwayne Vermeulen versus Smith, or you even look at Merve or whatever it is. He is a lot smaller. He's actually, of the 16 forwards that will take the pitch on tomorrow, he's actually the lightest as well. So just to see him lining out for the Springboks tomorrow in easily, well, I don't know, but like up there with one of the biggest games of his career, in a role that probably some people wrote him off on, in a role that some people probably had little faith in him, I think it is brilliant. And I'm really looking forward to, hopefully he doesn't do too well, because, I am looking forward to, or I am hoping, I suppose, for a Lions victory. But no, I am really looking forward to seeing what he brings, and just to see his role on the pitch. And I think he will be like having an added 7, running around the place. And obviously you look forward to seeing what the likes of Estebet and Mostert and Detroit and all the, like Faf and Pollard. Like obviously you look forward to seeing what they can do. But like I think in that 23, bar maybe Elton Yantis on the bench, I think that Quagga Smith's probably the underdog of that 23, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Ryan,
vindication hour. Who got for you?
There's a couple for me. I would say Stuart Hogg, third tour, finally gets to start a test. I think it's incredible. He's deserved it in the past, obviously, but through injuries, have to miss it. Dan Biggar, a similar story. I think 2013 he was the only Welsh Grand Slam winner that didn't go on tour. 2017 went and was third choice, and obviously he's going to be starting. He's had a bad few months as well, because I think his mum's died recently as well. So it's great for him to see. Obviously he's going to get starting berth. But then there's two lads that 5 or 6 years ago were playing together in the Welsh League, which is Burn and Wyn Jones, and they were playing like below regional level. I think one of them was working as a pizza delivery boy as well at some point. And to think that 5-6 years ago they were doing that, and now they're going to be like in the 23 for the test on Saturday. Especially Wyn Jones for Wales, who probably 2 or 3 years ago was out of it. He wasn't even classed as Wales' probably best 1 or 2 loose heads, and the fact he's now going to be starting the Lions test tomorrow is just phenomenal. So yeah, those 4 I think are massively deserving.
Okay, now just a bit of more serious questions before I get to the fight between 15 and 15. Jeff, looking for to both teams and how they play, or tomorrow we're gonna get some surprises. Where do you think the Lions cannot do mistakes? Absolutely, in terms of a tactical approach.
I think in regards the kicking game, be it the Lions or the Springboks, I think when the Springboks kick, the Lions, escort lines, are going to have to be an awful lot better than what they've been in previous games on this tour so far. They're just going to have to make sure that they're keeping their catchers safe, and that they're resourcing that first, second ruck very, very quickly and very, very efficiently. Because the Springboks do have that good chase that they have. Also, when the Lions kick the ball, they're going to have to either make sure they're hitting touch well, or that their kick chase is very, very, very good, because the last thing you want to be doing is giving it to Faf, Colby, Mapimpi, LaRue, Delande, all these boys in space. Like, that's the last thing you want to be having. So I think both sides of the kicking game is going to have to be nailed down, but also being wary of the Springbok. Sorry, I know I picked 2 things now, but also being wary of the Springbok wide defence. Their wingers like to read passes, and they don't like more than 3 passes in a backline. So, one pass they'll get high, second pass they'll get that bit higher, third pass they'll get nice and high and hopefully make a read. So I think they're just going to have to be very, very, very careful with their pass selection, and also make sure that while they are playing with width, they're not just playing with abandon. I don't think they will. But the likes of that South African backline, that they can pick a pass out of anywhere, but they'll also make reads. They'll come up really, really hard, but they do it in a way that there's no space. They're not sacrificing maybe their backfield in order to have good line speed, and they're not sacrificing their wing in order to come up hard in the inside. So they just have to be really, really wary of that read and make sure that they're playing, just playing the right passes.
Ryan, first, do you agree with Jeff? And second, where do you hope the Boks do mistakes, or so they won't have a field day with the Lions?
I think the points that Jeff's made is just spot on. That's where the game is going to be won and lost, and who can win that battle is going to be obviously the winner at the end of the day. I think when it comes to South Africa tomorrow, I think they won't be because of the coaching staff they've got and the players that they've got, and they've won a World Cup. But I just hope for their sake that they're not complacent in the sense of they look at that Lions backline and go, they're coming here to play. That comes into our hands. We'll defend this easily, and then drop the ball. Like as a rugby fan, I don't want that to happen. As a Lions fan, I hope they do and we win by shed loads. But for looking at it as a neutral, you want to hope that South Africa give us the respect that we deserve, I suppose, like they would have done with England in the World Cup final, if they did for Wales in the semis, where it's a case of we know how our game plan works, we know how our game plan will work against you, and I hope that they, for their sake, don't drift off it because they may look at the team and go, we can get at them, and underestimate. I don't think they will, but for the spectacle, I hope it's a running game. I'm just hoping it's not a bit like the semi-final that we had against South Africa in the World Cup, where it was just a kick fest.
Well, which was a good kick fest because until the last minutes.
Yeah, that's it.
And it was Jake Ball who got angry with Faf? No.
Jake Ball, yeah.
Jake Ball, yeah.
He's also recently punched Alan Wynne as well, so that's. But now he's in Australia. He doesn't play for us anymore.
Oh well, maybe tomorrow. Let's see who Faf is gonna screw tomorrow up. Because it's gonna be funny because Faf is a very good player to put adversaries out of their comfort zone. Now going to 15 to 15, I'm going to say the name of players, and you both have to say if you prefer one or another. Can we do this, or you think, or I'm putting you in a checkmate position?
Give it a whirl.
Let's see. So for the props, we have Wayne Jones and sorry for this for the Safas they're seeing the program. I'm not very good with some names, so you can teach me on Twitter without attacking me, please. So who you pick, Jeff?
Wayne Jones.
Oh,
yeah,
right. Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Okay, that's very good. So I'm the moderator. I'm going to say also my opinion, so you don't feel I'm bombarding you. I'm going to say Wayne Jones too. Kawandiki or Mumanambi, Jeff?
Bongi for me.
Bongi for me as well. Bongi's class.
Okay, I'm on the same level with you. Furlong or Nyakane?
Tyg Furlong.
Yeah, Furlong all day long.
Furlong could play it.
Apart from Malherbe, is probably the best three in the world for me. Apart from Malherbe.
You agree, Jeff?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, even including, I'd probably put him as the best tight head in the world, to be honest.
Oh, this is going to be a good discussion for the future. Okay, Itoje or Etzbeth?
Itoje.
Oh, the problem starts here.
Mara.
Mara, okay. For me, it's Etzbeth. You know, that bicep of his is just enormous. And any ball he can catch, and he's a support at the line out. I understand Itoje can do some stuff. Jeff, why Itoje over Etzbeth?
I just think his play in open game is probably better in terms of his defensive reads and just being an overall pain in the bum, I suppose.
Ryan, Wayne Jones or Mustard?
Wayne Jones.
Oh.
You could pick anyone else next to him, and it would always be Wayne Jones.
Lazarus, God. Jeff?
I think as good and as influential as Mustard is, like it's hard to say no to the most capped player in the world, isn't it? Like,
okay, so it's good. Now, Courtney Laws or Sia Kolisi, Jeff?
Kolisi.
Good pick.
Yeah, Kolisi.
Kolisi for me too. One question for you, Jeff and Ryan. Why Courtney Laws ahead of Todd Barn?
For me, because I think his game plan will be to try and keep it tight and massive defense in the first half, and then change it in the second half to have a running game. And Burns better at that.
Jeff, you agree?
Yeah, well, I think Byrne is better in open play, but Laws gets an awful lot of touches and tip-on passes and everything like that as well. I think he passed the ball the most against the Sharks in the second game, or
Yes.
there was some game there anyway that he had the most passes out of any forward on the pitch.
Sharks.
So that was the Sharks, yeah. So like, I mean, Laws is quite a good like if the Lions want to play with width, like he's their boy too. But also, like, I mean, he hits like a train too. So, you know, and that those opening exchanges. I mean, if you want to put, like, if you want to sign your name on someone, there's no better probably person than Courtney Laws to hit someone, you know.
Okay. So Curry or Dutoy?
Dutoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's nothing against Curry. Just like Dutoy's a freak.
He's a bit of a monster. Yeah, I agree. Now, Jack Conan and Quagga Smith, two players that 2 months ago nobody would think they would start at 8 in this first test match. Jeff.
Jack Conan.
Yeah, same.
Okay, this is difficult for me because I like Quagga Smith since the Lion, not these Lions, the Lions, the Emirate Lions, when they went to the Super Rugby final for 3 times. I'm going to with I love Jack Conan. I follow you. I follow the loose head, and when you do piece about Jack Conan, I just lose my mind because he's a completely different player. But I'm going for Quagga Smith because it's a center playing as a flanker that can play at fullback too if it needed. So now we come to the 9s. Mr. Ali Price or the great Faf de Klerk, Jeff.
Faf.
Yeah, it has to be Faf. It has to be Faf.
But you lingered, Ryan. You lingered for a moment.
No, there isn't anyone better. There isn't. Maybe DuPont, maybe Aaron Smith, but Faf is streets ahead of everyone else when it comes to scrum half.
Okay. So at 10s now, Pollard or Bigger, Ryan?
Bigger.
Oh, Jeff, do you follow?
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm a big fan of Dan Bigger. And as good as Pollard is, I think he's fantastic. I just really like, there's a couple of things probably I don't like about Bigger, but so what? Like, I think he's a fantastic footballer.
Oh, Ryan, why Bigger of Pollard? Leave the Welsh part to a corner. Why Pollard? Why Bigger over Pollard?
I just think Bigger has a game where, although he does a lot of work that is seen, he does a lot of work that's unseen. I think there was a game, the game against Ireland in the Six Nations just gone. There was tapes put out afterwards because it was obviously there was no crowd. You could hear what was going on the pitch, and everything was him. Even though we had leaders on the pitch, like Alwyn was there, etc., it was him that was running everything. Like, he knows where he wants. He runs the game plan. He's in charge of the whole thing. And I think, although you get that from most 10s, I don't think Pollard has that. I think Pollard is controlled a little bit by Faf and like Vermeulen and Khaleesi, and maybe Willie LaRue behind him, and he plays as the 10 and kicks his goals, whereas Bigger runs the show. And what works well for Bigger over Pollard as well as, I think Bigger, although Bigger's more of a kicking 10 than a running 10, he's more of a running 10 than Pollard is. Mm-hmm. So I think as an all-round player, Bigger wins it.
Okay, but for me, it's Pollard. I have the same opinion you have for Bigger, but the otherwise for Pollard. Tomorrow we're gonna see who gets the best of. Jeff, you agree with Ryan?
Yeah, well, for me, like, as well, it's Bigger's aerial game, and I don't mean kicking wise. I mean kind of in taking is exceptional, and that probably nudges it for me as well. I do prefer Pollard's temperament, I think that's fair to say, over Bigger's, but I just think that Bigger is a 10 for me. I just prefer him at 10, and his overall kind of game style and playing style.
Okay, so Mapimpi or Van der Merwe? Ryan?
Mapimpi.
Jeff?
Yeah, same.
Okay, same for me too, so no discussion. Damien de Allende or Henshaw? Jeff?
This probably
can we have one at 12, one at 13? Is that going to work?
Yeah, this is
no, you can't.
This is probably the hardest one.
Okay, I've got mine.
Like, I don't know. Like, I full on. Like, both are probably the best in their positions. I know that doesn't make any sense, but like, they're both probably up there with the best 12s in the world at the moment. Jesus, I'd probably go. Look, I like just off the back of, and I know that Tail Ende has been unbelievable for Munster in the last couple of seasons. Like, but just off the back of the way Henshaw's been playing for Ireland over the last number of games, I'm going to go Henshaw. But like, I mean, there's nothing between them.
Ryan, do you agree?
Henshaw.
Oh, this is for me. I'm going to say.
I think even before the squad was announced, Robbie Henshaw was one of the players that for me was nailed on starting if he's fit 12.
Yeah, he deserved. But the couple last season he did for Ireland and for club, he's been amazing. But I'm going for the Allende because of the the changing dynamics factor. He can change a game with an offload or with just a step or something. So now, Elliot Daly, look at me on, Jeff.
I'm going to go with Am. As much as I like Daly, I think Am is phenomenal. And he's pretty much kind of the centerpiece of he's the defensive leader of what is an exceptional defensive structure from the Springboks. So yeah, I'm going to go Am.
Yeah, agreed.
Jeff, if the Am was taken out of the field, you think the Springboks would lose one of the pillars of their defensive structure and mental structure?
Well, defensively, absolutely, yeah. He's so good, and he makes little reads. He comes up hard when he needs to. His communication's excellent. His overall play and attack then is excellent too. Mentally, look, I don't think so, to be honest, because I think at that level, regardless of what player comes off, you just get on with your own role and you say to yourself, right, just move on. So mentally, I don't think so. If he was taken off, during the game, it happens, so often, and nothing ever really, there's never a defensive or there's never a mental lapse or anything like that when we see it. It's just a case of next job, and as cold-hearted as it is, like, that's the way it is. Like, but I think he's just class. I think he's on. Well, he wouldn't be a World Cup winner, and starting against the Lions tomorrow if he wasn't. But like, he is just unbelievable. Future
captain for the Bucks?
It could well be. Yeah, I mean, he probably would have captained the side if Khaleesi wasn't in. So like, I think it's just a matter of time before he captains.
So now, I think this is a no-brainer now. Anthony Watson and Cheslin Colby. Jeff.
Colby all day.
Ryan.
It has to be.
Okay, for me it's Colby too. I was going to just say Watson for being contrarian, but I can't. I
think Watson's a brilliant footballer. He's really good in the air. Like, he is a baller, but like, Cheslin Colby's Cheslin Colby at the end of the day.
For me, it's Colby since that season for the Stormers. That game, Chiefs Stormers 2016 or 17. For me, it's still the best game of Super Rugby in the last 5 years, and people should see it because Colby was crazy in that game. And now LaRue or Stuart Hogg, Ryan. Oh, you want Liam Williams? I understand you didn't want Hogg there.
No, I would have gone Josh Adams on the wing and Anthony Watson at fullback. I think LaRue.
Jeff.
And it pains me to say it, but I would say LaRue.
Jeff.
I'm gonna say Hogg. I like LaRue. I really, really like LaRue. He's a brilliant footballer. But I think Hogg's boot is probably an extra dimension and gives him I know they can both probably slot in a 10, but I think that Hogg is probably the better footballer. And I think that his boot then just gives him that extra edge over LaRue, as much as I do like LaRue.
Ryan said something important, that Watson could play at fullback and Adams go to the wing. You agree with him?
Oh, well, yeah, that was an option. I think a lot of people, when they named their predicted teams, I think a lot of people either had Watson or Hogg at 15. I'm pretty confident that Adams was a nailed-on like winger in everybody's team. So like, yeah, it's certainly an option to explore. I don't think anybody had both Hogg and Watson in their starting 15s. But yeah, like, I mean, definitely Josh Adams could have taken a wing spot there and left a straight shootout at 15 for Hogg and Watson. And I know Adams can play 15 too, but I think it would probably have been that case there. I think it would have been that case for an awful lot of people in their predicted teams.
Okay. To finish, 2 last questions. So we picked the 15s. Erasmus or Gatland, Jeff? I had to go with it.
Well, you can't ask that question because Razzy's not the head coach.
It's Waterboy.
Oh, well, it's Razzie for me all day anyway.
Ryan.
Yeah. It would have always been Gats, but I think I've fallen a bit romantically for Razzie because in this last week I've watched Chasing the Sun back to back because I'm in isolation at the minute, and seeing the way that he speaks about his players, seeing the way that he cares for his players, seeing the way that his game plan is geared around all of their strengths, I think Razzie.
It's also, for me anyway, it's the way that Razzie took over at Munster after what happened and everything. So like he has a place in Munster forever. Like, so it's always going to be him for me.
Okay, for a Welsh guy, Ryan, that's a bit of a treason, you know, because
yeah, but he's not our coach anymore, so I can say that.
No, in 2017, he picked all Welsh players for the Lions. So I don't know why you don't agree or don't you like him. What you could done more?
No, nothing. I just think when it's a straight shootout, I think it's definitely Razzie of those two.
Okay. Last question to finish the stream. We have already 1 hour. Tomorrow, scoreboards predictions. Jeff, I can give you two chances to do a prediction.
Oh, if I have 2 chances, I'm going to say the Lions by 4 and then South Africa by 4.
No, but I want the scoreboards.
All right. Oh Jesus. I'll go 22-18, 22-18-ish, maybe. Yeah. I'm going to say the Lions, but the more I think about it, like I said the Lions in my own podcast there a couple of days ago, and ever since I said it, I've just been thinking more and more about the Springboks and how just like I mean, sorry, Chris.
No, I understand.
I mean, it's such a tough call, and like I want to say the Lions, obviously, because I'm supporting the Lions, and you always support or you always go for the team you support. But like, the head says one thing, the heart says another. But you know what? I'm in it now. I'll just say the Lions by 4 in and around 22-18.
Okay,
it'll 100% be wrong, but like, yeah.
On mine recently. Or last night, I said Lions by 5. So I'm going to go 26-21.
26-21. Okay, so you want to use the other score prediction? I'll do this. The one of you that goes nearer or gets it on point, I'll give you a rugby shirt from Portugal, rugby union. Or when you come to Madeira, I'll give you a night free pint and.
Where do I sign for that then? Where do I sign?
You don't have to sign. You're already on the podcast, so it's recorded forever.
So the other one then, I'll go 2015 Lions.
Okay. I'm going to do a prediction. 32-25 for the Springboks.
Sorry, scoring game.
No, I want to see an attacking game. Well, we need it. It's going to be completely different. I know defense is incredible, so I'm going to give a cold shoulder prediction, 18-16, and the Lions with a conversion by Owen Farrell. It will be massive, you know. Everybody, a lot of people don't like Farrell.
Even I might hear that.
Well, or a drop from Kobe from the middle of the field, a free point. It's not impossible. Jeff, thank you for coming. You want to send a goodbye message to the people who saw the show?
Just thanks a million for tuning in, and thanks for having me, Francisco.
Thank you, Jeff. You can see Jeff's stuff on Twitter. It's loosehead. It's loosehead. Just loosehead, right?
Yeah, at the loose H. The loose head was
Loose.
taken, so I had to shorten it. So the loose H, I suppose. But the loose head will find me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, find him. You can see. He's free to watch pieces, but most of the best part of his analysis are with the Patreon, and I think people should buy it because it's completely different, and you can see a side of rugby that football has a lot, but rugby is still trying to find it and to start divulging to the people to understand more about inside of the game and not just watching from outside. Ryan, last goodbye message.
Yeah, just the same. Just thanks for listening. Obviously, hopefully, I've not been too Welsh tinted glasses, Lions tinted glasses, but yeah, it's been enjoyable, and we'll hopefully do it again.
No. You were the least Welsh person of the Welsh people that I know. It was incredible today. Well, thank you. You can see Ryan and what he writes in Rock and Roll. It's a very good page. Today we had a big fight for make things right in the rugby world. Thank you both for coming. Subscribe to our page and subscribe to their pages too, because we keep talking rugby and must be a universal language for forever. Watch the Olympics. There's sevens as men and women. It's going to be a cracking. The Fiji on one side and the other, the New Zealand women, and Ireland is going to be there. It's quite a trip, and Jeff. Like 6 years ago, who would thought that Ireland sevens would be in the Olympics?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Like a couple of friends of mine, Mark Roach, Brian Mullen, like they're involved in that team. They've been involved since the start, and just to see them go from strength to strength, and like to be able to be like, even watching the qualifications there a couple of weeks ago against France, but like to be able to tune in now in a couple of days' time and watch, like two friends of mine become Olympians, like it's pretty cool. It's pretty Naomi Carroll now as well for the hockey team, like I'd be friends with her too, so I'm looking forward to seeing how she gets on too. But like to be able to see like just friends like lining out for the Olympics, it's pretty special. And like as special as it is for those boys, I think it's just as special for everyone who's kind of supported them along the way and kind of watched them too. So no, it's class, and really looking forward to seeing how they go. And you said it there, like 6 years ago, who would have thought it? But like now, they have a very good chance, like an excellent chance. So I'm just really excited for them as a whole.
Yeah. The sevens at the Olympics start on the 25th of July. You can watch. I think there's sometimes they're very good. Others it's going to be on 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. But see it because it's going to be different. The Olympics is always a different type of moment of the year. Thank you both for coming. Watch and read what Jeff and Ryan have to say about this test. Start tomorrow. At what is the time? Because I'm a bit lost on the time. It's 5? No,
5 UK time. Yeah,
5 UK time, BST time, because UK time is also Portuguese time, and we live in the same time zone. You didn't still conquer us. Still. Okay. Thank you for coming. See you next time. This was Up and Under, our podcast about rugby, and I thank you to have a good weekend. Bye.